Good morning, everybody. Mark Martyrossian here from Aubrey Capital. I'd like to take up just 10 minutes of your time today with a quick presentation on the investment thesis that's driving our Global Conviction Fund. I'm joined by Andrew Dalrymple, who many of you know. Andrew has been at the wheel of the Global Conviction Fund since it kicked off in 2007, and he has one of his analysts with him, Tom. Andrew, having faced pretty stern headwinds for the last couple of years, we're all delighted to see that the fund has come storming back, returning 44% last year. I know the index doesn't play any part in your process, but just for comparison purposes, the MSCI All World returned just 20. Could you just give us a brief reprise on what success last year was down to before moving on to the meat of the presentation as to prospects for next year?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Mark. The answers are pretty straightforward and pretty simple. We started the year with about 70% of the portfolio committed to America. We kept it that way all year. We were also very bullish on India pretty early on, with about 4 or 5 holdings in the fund. In January, we reduced that as the years progressed. But some of them paid off very, very handsomely. And I suppose also keeping in Asia just for a second, we're having nothing in China. We abandoned China entirely in July 2023 and haven't revisited to any extent. Anyway, we've had 1 or 2 little forays into China, but nothing of any consequence at all. No more ever than 1 holding, and I had to confess, without great success. And so that also added very, very considerably to our advantage, I think, and also because part of running a fund is avoiding big potholes, and China has been a huge pothole for anyone committed to China in 2024, bar 1 brief huge rally in September. And finally, just on last year, we did extremely well in Europe, because although they were fairly lethargic markets, certainly in comparison to America, we had some very good stock selection. We owned Novo Nordisk between January and about August, at which stage we thought that the valuations were getting ever higher, too high. And we also thought that the sort of hype and enthusiasm for weight loss drugs was getting a bit too pronounced for us anyway, so we moved on from that. We also owned Ferrari, a luxury goods company, really, albeit a car company, which has stood proud and made us about 30% throughout the year. And between about March, April, and the end of the year, we owned Rheinmetall, the maker of the best tanks in the world, armored fighting vehicles, and lots of ammunition. And again, that's added a good value to us. And again, without laboring the point about Europe, we had a few other things here and there, semiconductor plays, none of which were hugely profitable, but none of which did us any great damage either. And so it was principally America, principally India, but with a very good supporting cast in Europe.
So just on the US, Andrew, obviously a big part. Was this the result of a bet on the Mag 7?
Definitely not, actually. We have, the first half of the year, we owned Alphabet. We've owned NVIDIA all year round, which has been extremely helpful. In fact, NVIDIA has not been our best stock. Our best stock in 2024 was a company called Axon Enterprises, which makes tasers and body cameras. So increasingly, policemen and security service people, and indeed even people who serve sandwiches in Pret, I understand, are getting body cameras, which they wear on their left bosom, and they take photographs of anyone who's been rude to them or whatever. Anyhow, it's a body cameras as much as the tasers, which are really, really driving Axon up. But we also had some huge some huge movers. We were big in data centers, big in semiconductors. We owned Arista, which plumbs data centers, for want of a better description. Vertiv, which cools data centers. They get incredibly hot with all the power and all the servers inside them. And we owned a company called Comfort Systems, which is one of the largest electrical contractors in America, principally focused on HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems in commercial buildings. And about 5 of these companies, about 5 of our best performing companies, contributed about 4% to the 43% performance that we had. In the second half of the year, we were slightly more in the Mag 7, in as much as we owned Meta, And we bought, and then actually just very recently we bought into Amazon as well. So yeah, it's been a very sort of much wider gambit really than the Mag 7. The Mag 7 have been very good, but so many other really good companies we've owned.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, the fund has started the year with great gusto. The critical question is how are you positioned now, and what's the outlook?
Well, I mean, perhaps in some ways the disappointing thing, but perhaps a reassuring thing is that it seems to me that the best place to be is more of the same. And so we've got 75% in America. We've got a slightly reduced position in India. The market there is pulling back a bit. I mean, a bit of concern over valuations. We're about to come up to the third quarter reporting season in India. Much will depend on that. We're down to about 7 or 8% in India at the moment. We are finding a few more things in Europe that are beginning to attract us. And of course, the last week or two, the American market's been absolutely on a tear. It's not inconceivable we might take the top of 1 or 2 of these holdings that have really spiked higher in the last well, really since President Trump's election. I don't see us going back into China anytime in the near future. Much will depend on what the Chinese government does on the economic package front. But there's never any calendar of financial announcements in China, so they might come at any moment and without warning, and you can't really invest with that prospect. But you know, by and large, as I say, I think it's sort of situation unchanged, and we'll carry on doing what we're doing.
Okay. And in terms of names now, without giving away the secrets of the fund, which names have you got particularly high hopes for?
I pass to Tom for that slide. Why not?
Yeah, sure. I can take that one. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, a couple of names to maybe give to the viewers that we think are 2 of our more interesting runs heading into this year. First one I'd like to talk about is Construction Partners, which is ticker ROAD, and that ticker is very appropriate because they're a 5 billion market cap road builder for both public and private institutions. I think the main reason we like this one is its geographical focus, which is in the Sunbelt states of Florida and Texas, which is seeing really high levels of population migration, which only enhances the need for enhanced infrastructure. This is backed up as well by the tailwinds of the IIJA, which they've already seen good tailwinds from so far, and we think that's going to continue. A lot of focus on what Trump is doing in his first few days, but it looks as though IIJA is comfortable from where we're standing. And the third point really is their excellent track record of M&A, which I think will only improve. They've used this to expand their geographic reach further. They've recently acquired in Texas with Lone Star Paving and in Oklahoma with Overland as well. And we think the environment going into this year really sets them up to continue driving further growth with M&A and infrastructure spending still in its early days. The other one, which is a slightly larger name and probably more well known, would be Intuitive Surgical, which has done really well for us. We've owned it since around a year ago, I believe. It's essentially the founding father of robotics within surgery. So it helps surgeons complete complex procedures with far cleaner and better results. We still think, even though it's at a high valuation, robotics is still very much in low penetration. Procedures have grown 22% in the US since 2020 in terms of people using robots. So we still think we're early in that cycle too. And more recently, they've launched a new product called the Da Vinci 5, which is their latest robot. And that's really what the key driver is going to be going into this year. They recently released, and I think the full results are later on today, results suggesting that they've delivered 174 during Q4 2024. And these numbers are going to keep driving up essentially what is a razor blade model. So whereby they make more money from their instruments and accessories than they do from the machines themselves. So that we think will drive further incremental revenue and margin uptick through higher ASPs as well. So that's another name to keep an eye on. But I'll hand it back to you now.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 very good, well, particularly the second one, Intuitive Surgical, incredibly good example of the things we try to buy in America, which is American compounders, people who break into or develop a new market, a new product, and it becomes an enormous component of the medical industry. I mean, every surgeon in the world nowadays is trained to use robotic surgical devices. There are 9,500 of these Da Vinci machines around the world. It's just been an absolutely incredibly good, as I say, American compounder shares. And that's really, I mean, the whole portfolio is designed really to find these sort of opportunities and to try and run with them as long as we can. I mean, Axel Enterprises, we've owned since 2018, I think, or thereabouts. And it's made us probably something like 8 or 9 times our original purchase price. And America in particular is an area that we always find very, very fertile hunting ground for these sort of opportunities.
Okay. Well, thanks both. In a week when a landing on Mars in 4 years' time has been predicted, I think your views seem a little more grounded. If any of you in the audience would like further material or discussion on the points brought up by Andrew and Tom, please get in touch with your sales rep and that can be arranged. Thanks again.